Hey everyone, I thought I'd take a minute and just give you a small tour of my greenhouse. My greenhouse measures 10 feet by 20 feet and I want to show you some things that I've been able to do in it. I built it about 4 years ago just out of the top rail of chain link fence, and I can show you a little later the little device that I used to bend those bars. Here's the outside of the greenhouse. Like I said, it measures 10 feet by 20 feet, and the covering on it is just a 6 mil greenhouse plastic, and I've got 2 layers of the plastic on, and then I've got it just hooked down over the radius of the greenhouse with just wiggle wire. This is the heater I use to heat the greenhouse. It's a 10,000 BTU blue flame. It's a vent-free furnace, so I don't have to vent it. It just burns clean enough so you don't need a vent on that, and it allows me to keep the nighttime temperatures of the greenhouse at about 40 degrees on a real cold night. Last night it was 27 degrees and I was able to keep it at about 40 degrees, so it works quite well for what I need. Why I wanted a greenhouse in the first place. Here in Utah, like I said, it was 27 degrees last night, so it's too cold to plant most of our things out in the garden. Of course, we can plant peas and we can plant beets and carrots and things, but they are just barely getting started. And so let me show you the difference. As you can see, I've got potted tomato plants, and I started these actually in the house, so they're probably probably 5 weeks old, but they've been in the greenhouse since about March 7th. And I've got some tomatoes, I've got some big beef, and I've also got celebrity, which is my favorite kind of tomato. And then in my next bed I have red leaf lettuce, and I've also got green leaf lettuce. And if any of you've watched my experiments with the hydroponic tanks inside, the same lettuce that I use for the hydroponic tanks is the same that I planted out in my greenhouse in the ground. But the difference is, you'll notice the lettuce that was in the hydroponic tanks inside, even though it's a red leaf lettuce, it's very, very green. And the lettuce outside is very red. And I think maybe the cool nighttime temperatures have a lot to do with that. In the next bed, I've got bok choy, and as you can see, the bok choy is doing absolutely great. It's growing very, very fast. I've never planted bok choy before, but as I was watching MHP Gardner's videos, he was planting bok choy in his hydroponic tank. So I decided to plant some bok choy seeds, planning to put them in my hydroponic tank. But I ended up having so much lettuce, I ended up planting that in the hydroponic tank, and then just planting some of the bok choy plants out in the greenhouse. In the next bed, I have beets, and we've just been harvesting these the last 3 weeks just as beet greens, and which we've been putting in our salad. And so as you can see, they're well on their way. Some of the leaves are getting as high as 6 inches high. In the next bed, each bed measures about 4 by 4. So in the next bed I have spinach planted, and in this particular bed I've got 6 rows of spinach, and then I just harvest it when the leaves are a little smaller. Then in the next bed, as you can see, this is carrots, and these carrots were planted directly in the soil about a month ago. In this next bed I've got some garlic growing, and then I have some more bok choy, and I've also just tried to put in some green beans, not knowing how well they would do with the low nighttime temperatures, but as you can see that they seem to be doing all right, but I'll have to just watch them and see what happens. And then in this last bed, if you can see it, I'll zoom up a little bit, but I planted these in the house with seeds. I planted them February 18th, so they were in the house since February 18th, and then I brought them out here March 7th. But they're leeks, and I've never grown leeks before, but so far they look pretty good. And then of course I've got some more red leaf lettuce and some more bok choy that I had left over from some other plants. And then I've got just a pot here with a bunch of leeks in it that when it warms up just a little bit more, probably this weekend I'll plant those outside. And the last thing I use my greenhouse for is down the center of the aisle. You can see a variety of just potted plants, and these are just geraniums. Every year I try to plant geraniums from seed, and I get between 70 and 120 geraniums. And of course, if anybody's bought geraniums at the store, you know that they're very expensive. So it's a benefit for me just to plant the geraniums from seed. And of course, here in Utah, we won't be planting any of our flowers in our flower beds until May 15th. So I've got about another month to wait, but by that time these plants will look really well. And then the last thing that I have is just some chives. My neighbor gave me a bunch of chives and I divided them up in 4 pots, and I'll have to figure out what to do with those when I start planting things outside. But anyway, that is just a small tour of my greenhouse. Like I said, each of the bars were from the top rail of a chain link fence, and I will show you what I used to bend those with. Okay, this is what I used to bend the top rails of the chain link fence to form the frame of the greenhouse. It's just called a bender bar. I bought it on eBay. It was about $40, I believe, about 4 years ago. But anyway, you just fasten it down onto a piece of plywood or frame of some sort, and then you just slide your pipe in it, and then you just bend it over that radius. And surprisingly, it's not that hard. It went pretty quick. So I was able to bend 12 10-foot pipes in a matter of about 30 minutes. So it worked out pretty well. Anyway, on this particular one, he's got a label, and on the label it just gives a website address if anybody's interested. It's just www.lostcreek.net. I don't know if he still sells them or not, but I think if you just look on the internet and look up bender bars for greenhouses, you'll probably find it. Well, that's the end of my small greenhouse tour. As you can see, things are growing pretty well for me in it. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll try to answer any of your questions. Anyway, thanks for watching.